Riddhi, you are saying that you missed the first session on 8th of November, right? No worries, you can
Yes.
visit the GDSC page where you will find the entire event recording. It is there on YouTube as well. We have also shared the PPT which we used for the presentation. So everything is there. Just check it out after today's event, and I hope
Okay,
all
sir.
your queries will be resolved.
Yes, sir. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, no worries. Great, let's begin. So, a very good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome all of you to the GDSC BBCOENM event on Advanced Web Development and Real-Time Chat Application. Today is day 2 of the Hack Week series. I am Mayuresh Kulkarni, founder and lead of this Google Developers chapter of our college, and I welcome you all to the event. This is a 2-day event of web development workshop series. We had conducted a day one event on web development from scratch on 8th of November. The recording and slides of which are available on the chapter page. We are majorly focused on front end development and started developing a really interesting application, which was a real time chat application. Today, we are majorly focusing on more advanced concepts like backend development, and we will complete the project that we started on day one. And we will continue where we left off. I hope everyone attended the day one event. But even if you have not attended and you are a new attendee, then also it is fine. We will have a recap of day one, and we will cover up whatever we did on day one and continue with day two. We have amazing speakers with us today who will teach you step by step and do live coding so that you can follow along if you wish. And again, I'm repeating, all the events that we conduct, all the events that are conducted by GDSC are uploaded on YouTube as well, so you can refer to it anytime. During the event, if you guys have any doubts, you can put it on the chat or you can unmute and ask the speakers directly, no problem. And of course, we will have a small Q&A session to clear all and any doubts you have about the event, about GDSC or anything, not specific or limited to anything as well. Great. So let me now introduce you to our speakers, starting with Amit Patil. Amit is our technical team one member, and we are very happy to have you here, Amit. He has done internship as a full stack developer where he was tasked with backend integration with several cloud providers. He has also done various certifications in Amazon Web Services, that is AWS, and IT support. On day one, he introduced us to the web development and why we should learn it, what is done using web development, what are the things that are developed, and basically why you should learn it. Today, he will be live coding and guiding us in Firebase, Google Firebase integration, authentication, and database connection of the project, that is real-time chat application that we are developing in these 2 days. Coming to our next speaker, that is Nikhil Sawant. Nikhil is also our technical team one member, and he is our second speaker for today. Nikhil has experience working as an intern in web development companies. During his internship as a software developer, Nikhil was tasked with designing an application to ensure the privacy of users and facilitate end-to-end encryption of the same. He is also a 5-star rated coder on HackerRank, which is a very difficult feat to achieve. In this session, he will discuss backend development, different types of databases, and why we are using Firebase as a backend service in our project, and what are its advantages if you use it in your projects as well. So, with that speaker introduction done, I will hand it over to these two speakers to start our day two event.
Yeah, so thank you, Marish, for the introduction. So, firstly, welcome all. So basically, we have planned the event as per this roadmap, wherein on day one, Amit explained us what is web development and why should we learn it, what are the job roles available in the market. Then Ankit gave us a short demo about the real-time chat application, followed by some hands-on coding and developing the front end live, explaining to us everything in detail. Now, in day two, today we are going to design the backend for the chat app. But before that, we are going to introduce you to the SQL and NoSQL databases, and then we will go over using Firebase and building the app live. Yeah. So next slide, please. So here is the short recap of day one. So on day one, Ankit helped us in designing the front end of the real-time chat application, where we learned the basics of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and also we learn how to use Bootstrap and design responsive UI, and also we learned more about jQuery for DOM manipulation, and yeah. Also, you can find the GitHub repo for this or the code files is here. Next. Next is the backend development. So the backend development is mainly related to the server and serverless, the databases and the programming languages, backend programming languages we use, and the APIs. We will find out what are all of these things as we go along. Yeah. So basically, what is a database? So a database is a collection of related data organized in a way that data can be easily accessed, managed, and updated. So here, the main purpose of the database is to store and retrieve data efficiently. Also, there are two types of databases: SQL and NoSQL. The application of SQL database are web and mobile development in large enterprises and in data marts, whereas NoSQL is being used in a wide range of industries like gaming, social, IoT, web development, and much more. So some of the examples of SQL databases include Microsoft SQL Server, PostgreSQL, and MySQL. And the examples of NoSQL are like MongoDB, Firestore, AWS DynamoDB, and AWS Aurora. Next slide, please. Yeah, so here is the main difference between SQL and NoSQL. So the SQL databases are primarily called as relational databases. Here the data is stored in the form of traditional two-dimensional rows and column structure. So here is like the sample table structure of our SQL database. So here you can see there are four rows and four columns. So basically all these are in a table which you can also call this as a relation. So here the customer ID is like a unique ID, which we call it as a primary key, which uniquely identifies each row, and you can also get the data using this primary key. And each row you can also reference it as a tuple, where you can find data of each individual, like its customer ID, last name, and birth date. And next is the NoSQL database. So here the database used to manage huge sets of unstructured data. The four major types of NoSQL databases are document databases, key value databases, white column stores, and graph databases. And next is the advantages of NoSQL database. So as we know, like the applications nowadays serve millions of users in different locations, and it becomes very tedious task to manage all the data of lots of users. So NoSQL does it in a more efficient way. Also, there are the applications which are becoming more distributed, like all the data is stored in different PCs, so that increases the redundancy of that data. So NoSQL also manages all this redundancy very efficiently. Yeah. So next is the Firebase. So the Firebase is a platform as a service known for its cloud-hosted NoSQL database that lets you store and sync between users in real time. With a single API, the Firebase provides our app with both the current values of the data and any updates to the data has been made. So here, as you can see in the uh, example animation here. So if any one device changes, key updates any data to the database, then the Firebase automatically syncs all the data that is being updated in all the other devices. Yeah. So next, here is the example where you can consider this the chat as the table name and the message one and message two as the row one and row two of our table. And here the data is stored in like a key value format where the here key is name and value Frank, and the second is a message and hello anyone here. So yeah, next is the services of Firebase in our app. So in our app, we have used Firebase for Google authentication and Firestore as our database. So as you can Firebase allows us to access the services with free of cost, and it is easiest to start and implement features as quickly as possible, which unlike other providers, it does not require a credit card details and all that. And one of the most highlighting features of our app is the live updation of the UI. That is, without refreshing the page, this is possible only possible due to the real-time listener function that is inbuilt in Firestore, which we'll see next. So the Cloud Firestore is a NoSQL database. In Cloud Firestore, data is stored in a JSON object, but it is generalized into documents and collections. So yeah, and as you can see, in the example here, next, Amit. Yeah, as you can see in the example here, as you can see the collection, you can refer this collection as tables in SQL, and the document as the rows, and the map here stores the data in a JSON format, like in key value format. Yeah. So next is the authentication. So authentication is the process of verifying the identity of a user. So why do we need authentication? So the main objective of authentication is to allow users or authorized users to access the app and to deny access to the unauthorized users. Yeah, and this is a small architecture of our app. Here you can see uh, users can sign in using third-party accounts and also Google accounts, third-party accounts like Facebook, Twitter, and GitHub, etc. And the Firebase gives a unique ID. As you can see here, it is a token ID with which the Firebase can uniquely identify the user and store the data of that user securely with the help of this ID, and the user can access the content of our app securely. Now I will pass over to you, my colleague Amit. Yeah.
Thank you, Ankit, for the wonderful presentation, giving us a brief idea of all the services that we are going to use. And I hope I'm audible as well as visible to all of you guys.
Yeah.
So this is one of the last minute features that I decided to add. That includes hosting as well. So let's say I want to share my website or my web app to everyone. Obviously, it has to be hosted somewhere, right? So Firebase hosting is one of the most easiest way to implement anything that has Firebase inbuilt. So we are also going to host our web application. As in day one demo, Ankit has also given you the website wherein we have hosted our production app, and you can revert back to a previous version. Yeah, so just like GitHub, wherein we can roll back to some certain changes. That feature is also available in Firebase hosting as well. So yeah, coming to why Firebase hosting. So if we are trying to host a website somewhere, let's say some other site, we need to take care of HTTPS protocol and SSL certificates as well. But in terms of Firebase, gives us both of these things, that is the HTTPS protocol as well as SSL certificate built in for our project. So we get to deploy our application in a much more faster execution and in a much more faster way. So yeah, so I am pretty sure you all guys must be very excited for the live coding. But before that, I would like to give you a quick introduction regarding serverless architecture as well. So let's just skip over that first, and then we will jump directly to the coding as well. So coming to the traditional architecture, like what's existing as of now and what we have learned in our past years is that there is a huge infrastructure that we need to take care of, that includes databases, resources, load balancers, web servers, CDN networks, routers, DNS. Like we have to take care of our application, or in case if we want to deploy our applications somewhere, we need to take care of all of these things in a traditional architecture. So the main drawback of this thing is that yeah, for sure we can customize our architecture as per our specific needs. But there is a lot of time is wasted into into setting up certain things that we should not focus on. We should really be focusing upon our application or applications logic, and this kind of architecture gets us becomes an overload, and a lot of time is wasted as well. So coming to the serverless architecture, that we were the one of the most important motives of today is that serverless architecture. So what serverless architecture does is everything that we can see in this traditional architecture. Okay, the screen refreshed. All right, just a sec. Yeah, so everything that we can see in this traditional architecture, all of these things can be converted into a as a service kind of feature, and then like for example the compute engine, wherever we have a virtual machine or wherever we have a
Amit, your voice is not audible. Sorry for the inconvenience, guys. There is a power failure at Amit's place. He will be joining in 2 minutes. Please do not leave.
hello, Marish, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Sorry for the interruption. Electricity issues as well. Yeah, so I hope the screen is visible now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so coming to where we left off, that would be the traditional architecture, where whatever we have on our traditional architecture that can be converted into as a service as well. So, for example, compute engine can be termed as a virtual machine instance. There are other engines such as Kubernetes engine, which is used for Docker containers as well. And on the right hand side of our spectrum is the Firebase, that is the most highly managed serverless product of our huge Google Cloud Platform architecture. So Firebase, the main objective behind Firebase is that we will only focus on the things that needs our attention. Other than that, all the other things are taken care of. So yeah, so coming to the why serverless architecture, it is one of the fastest way of executing our system design architecture, and it abstracts away the whole complexity of setting up network servers, setting up of load balancers and stuff. And it helps as a backend developer, as a front-end developer. It helps us to focus on things that are actually needing attention. And the most biggest advantage is that in the traditional architecture terms, once you set up a server, that is kept on running for 24x7. So this means that we incur cost when our application is not actually needed or not actually working. So when we come to serverless architecture, since it's a pay-as-you-go model, we only pay the amount, only the amount, the time when our application is actually used. So yeah, serverless architecture is, I know it's a kind of a new thing and it's a new technology, and not a lot of people have, not a lot of companies have actually transitioned to serverless architecture. But yeah, in the future, I'm definitely sure that a lot of companies will be migrating to serverless architecture as well. So yeah, coming to the live coding part, as I've promised you all. So let's start with the live coding part. Yeah, I think my screen is once again visible. Mayuresh, can you please confirm?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So this is where Ankit left us on day one. I'm sure the link of this repo has been circulated to you. And currently I'm on the day one branch. Like this is where Ankit has left us off, and we will be picking up from here as well. So let me just download the code as is. Day one branch, yeah. Let me download a zip file directly without cloning. Yeah, so this is our application that Ankit Joshi has left us. So let us open that application. Yeah, so let me open this folder in Visual Studio Code so that you guys can see. Yeah, so let me give you a brief introduction of the basic structure, file structure. So this is the index.html file, and wherein the Mr. Ankit has created the UI, and this is the JS file. Now, mostly we will be working on the index.js file since we are working on backend. And index.html, we will be only in importing certain scripts. So index.html, that's the use. So before starting jumping into the code, we need to set up a few things. So there are certain kind of requirements that we will be having for this Firebase integration. So that would be that would be installing of the Firebase CLI. That would be installing of a code editor. In my case, I'm using Visual Studio Code. You guys are free to choose any code editor that you want. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The Firebase CLI, there are two ways to install it. One might be via Node.js, and the other one would be directly installing a binary file. So Ankit Joshi will share you the link. If not now, he will share you via the GitHub repo as well. So let's go to the Firebase console. So whenever we are trying to integrate Firebase to our backend, we need to create a project first. So let's go to the Firebase console first. Yeah, so this was one of the applications that I was that has been already developed, and I will be creating a new project. Let me give this name as chat application day 2. This project name can be anything, but just for the sake of readability and understandability, I have kept it as chat application day 2. So continue. As usual, Google is trying to ask us if we want to enable analytics. I would say no, because that's not needed for our purpose. So yeah, what this does is create, while it's creating our project, is that it is provisioning some kind of resources in the backend to the Google Cloud Platform. So by the time this finishing up is done, let me show you what the CDN would be. So this is one of the site wherein we can import some JS files that are already hosted for us. So since we are developing a vanilla application, we need to import certain kind of libraries. So the thing how we import libraries in vanilla application is that we have to include the script tag in index.html file. So let me go here. Yeah, so this is the cdnjs.com, and we have selected the version 8.10. The latest version would be 9.4. But since version 9, Firebase has locked down certain kind of features, and it would not be possible to develop an application using Firebase SDK 9.4. So we will be using the latest version of version 8, that would be version 8.10, and we will be including this firebase.js file. So let me just copy this file. This is the copy strict tag, and paste it here. Yeah, so it's a pretty long tag, but yeah, CDN Cloudflare firebase.js has been imported in our file. Okay, so I guess by this time our Firebase console, yeah, chat application day 2, your new project is ready. So yeah, so we are now we are on the console or the dashboard of our project on Firebase, and that will now, as Firebase is suggesting us that we need to add our application. So there are a lot of applications that we can add, that includes iOS, Android, web, and Unity as well. So since we are creating a website, that we will click on the web, and yeah, so as a last minute addition, as I said, that we are also setting up Firebase hosting. So we will select Firebase hosting from here only, and let's give this a name, day 2 web app. So once we hit the register button, a lot more resources will also be added. Yeah, so this is the script file that we are Firebase is suggesting us. So let's just copy this script file, so that our website comes to know that this website is connected to that specific project. So it's no such thing that these kind of variables are private. These variables can be exposed to any kind of web application. There is absolutely no issues there, and yeah, as long as we have authentication available, then we do not need to have this. Yeah. So we have, as you can see in line number 29, const app is equal to firebase.initialize app, and we have initialized the app here. So let me quickly go to the Firebase console, and yeah, she's asking us to install Firebase CLI as well. But I have already installed it. This link will be shared with you as well. So as I said, 2 ways to install it, NPM or Windows as well. So since we have already installed Firebase, let's just skip it. And these are the 3 commands that we will be needing to run: Firebase login, Firebase init, and Firebase deploy. So Firebase deploy is the last command that we'll be running. So the first 2 commands that we'll be running today is Firebase login and Firebase init. So that's the first part, that is setting up of the web application. So next comes the authentication. So as I said, that we are having authentication in our app as well. So let's get started with authentication. So there are a lot of ways, as you can see, there are a lot of ways where through which how we can authenticate the user. So that includes Google, Facebook, Play Games, the traditional phone number, email, password, and anonymous as well. So just for the sake of simplicity, I will only enable Google here. and it is also asking for a project support email. So I will put in my own personal email and then hit the save button. So in this way, Google sign-in is successfully set up for our project. Yeah, as you can see, provider Google, that is enabled for our project. So then comes this domain part. As you can see, these are the 3 domains that are by default available for the authentication. So since we will be developing this application on localhost, then this authorized domain localhost is also there. But once we are ready to deploy this application, we can definitely remove this domain from here as well. So coming to the Firestore database part, like we need to set up our database and provision certain things as well, right? So let's go to Cloud Firestore and create the database as well. So he's asking us to start in production mode or test mode. So since we are developing our application, since we will be testing certain things, then I will be starting in test mode as well. Now, this is one of the, like Google is saying it's one of the most crucial things, but let me tell you what this is. So even though this is a serverless architecture, there are some kind of resources that are allocated somewhere in the cloud or somewhere virtually. So Google has its data centers in across the world. So let me just give you a brief idea of where all these are the data centers that they have. So if you can go and Google some kind of words, then you will come to know what exactly this location is. So we will be definitely selecting the location that is closest to us. Now, since we are in Mumbai or the western part of India, Asia South one is the closest location to us. It doesn't matter much, but it would definitely be preferred that we select our Cloud Firestore location as closest to our target audience. So most of the users of our application will be from the western part of India. So I'll be selecting Asia South one. So yeah, so once we hit the enable button, he will be provisioning a separate kind of SSD or hard disk for us in its Google database. If you guys have any kind of queries up till now, please put it in the chat. I'm sure my team will definitely help you out. Since it physically allocates some kind of memory, so it takes time for this to happen. So let me just yeah, so this was the screen that Nikhil had in his presentation as well, wherein we can create. So what start collection does is that we can translate collection as a table. So we can create a table in SQL by using command create table kind of thing. So instead of that, Google has a GUI for it. So let me just create a table or collection in terms of in terms of NoSQL language, that would be chat messages. So let me create a table known as chat messages. And along with that, he's asking me to add a document as well. So I will just create a random document. So once I hit the auto ID button, what happens is that it creates a unique ID for our document and saves it. So once we hit the save button, chat messages, inside chat messages, we have a row, like inside a table, we have a row with a unique ID as this unique number. All right. So another thing that we will be setting up is hosting as well. So there's not much to start with hosting. We just have to follow these steps. So yeah, we already know these steps, right? So continue to console. Yeah. So hosting is already set up for us, and these are the domains that has been given to us. So we have completed the first part of our project, that is setting up of Firebase, creating a project, setting up of Firestore authentication, and then including this with index.html file as well. Let me just give a console.log as well. So this is the index.js file where Ankit Joshi left us. So let me just console.log Firebase just to check if everything is running. Yeah, so let me just inspect element and see. Yeah. So as you can see in the console, since I have put console.log Firebase, you can see that in the console there is a index.js4 wherein we have printed the contents of the Firebase object. So this is an indicator that Firebase is successfully set up inside our web application. So this marks the first part of our first major milestone of our backend integration. If you guys have any kind of queries, feel free to ask so. I'll be taking a 1 minute break.
Yes, Nikhil, you asked if Firebase has any storage limit. So this thing depend upon the plan that you are taking. So currently, Amit is using the free plan, and according to the free plan, I guess it's around 10 GB or something. And if you want more, then I guess there is a plan named as Spark plan or something. So you have to read all the pricing documentation, and there you will find all the details how the costing is done on the basis of storage. So mostly the database will scale according to your application, and based on that there will be a costing.
All right then. Uh, let's just start with the text part of our project. So that would be setting up the authentication of our project. So what happens is that this would be the main entry point of our project. So document.ready, once the document is completely ready, animate scroll at bottom and this function will be called. So let's just call another method here, that would be auth user. And before calling it, we need to define it as well, right? So some kind of code, I know JavaScript might be a little bit new to you, but rest assured, bear with me now. You can always go ahead and re-watch the recording as well. And inside day 3 we have lots of practices, lots of stuff for JavaScript as well. So bear with me now in case you are not familiar with the syntax, and I'll try my level best to explain you the syntax as well. So I will be defining something known as the ES6 kind of function, known as arrow function as well. So const user. Okay, so that would be the first entry point. And see, there are a lot of functions that I will be using that are not native to JavaScript or native to the browser, but I will be using Firebase functions. So one of the most greatest resource for referring the functions that are related to Firebase is that their Firebase docs. So I'm sure Ankit will share you the link of Firebase docs as well in the GitHub repo as well. So I will directly jump to the authentication part of Firebase docs, wherein we can refer to live examples, some kind of examples as well. So let me just go here to Google sign in, and so they give us a kind of a basic tutorial about how we should go ahead with the tutorial as well. So let me just copy this link, wherein Google sign in page. So wherein we are trying to sign in with Google only, right? So I will copy this chat snippet, code snippet, and paste it here, where provider is equal to new. We are creating an object that is related to the Google auth provider. And then after that, we will be signing in. So As you can see, to sign in with a pop-up window, we need to call sign in with pop-up. So we will directly copy this, and we will only copy the part that is needed to us. All right. So firebase.auth.sign in with pop-up provider. And then after the user has been signed up or has been logged in, we need to call another function. But that calling of function should happen only after the user has authenticated himself. That's why we are using the .then keyword, and in that we will be calling another function known as fetch static data. So the main function of fetch static data would be to fetch the data once. Like we need to populate the UI with previous chat messages as well, right? So we will be fetching the data, and let's just define the fetch data method as well. Const fetch static data. Yeah. So as Visual Studio Code is also guiding me on the specific keyword so that I don't mess up with my spelling mistakes as well. So yeah, so the first line would be clearing of messages. So I guess Ankit has already defined a helper function for us known as clear messages. Yeah. As you can see in line number 93, there is a method known as clear message. So what it does is that whatever messages we have previously, that would be cleared, some kind of junk messages or garbage messages that are not in line with our menu. So those will be cleared. So let me call that method first here, so that we get a clear picture or get a clear screen. And then we will be calling a function, or we will be fetching some data from the fetch static data as well. So like we will be communicating with the Firestore functionality. So let me go with the Firestore here. Yeah, so inside Firestore, as we can recall, this is a collection known as chat messages, and there is a document known as a random document with a unique ID starting from UA. So we need to connect to this Firestore database. So as usual, let's say I do not know where to start. So we can definitely refer to the docs, come to the build section, and then come to Firestore. And then inside Firestore docs, we have add and manage data. So in this fetch static data, what we need to do is we need to read the data from the Firestore existing data. So let me just go to read the data and click on get data once. Since we only want to fetch the data once, so I'll be clicking on get data once. So there are a lot of examples here, like example data. They have populated the Firestore already. Then we have get a document. So we will be referring this kind of syntax. So let me just go ahead and type this for you. So that would be first I will be making a reference to this specific Firestore collection, this chat messages collection. So let me just go ahead and do that first. Firebase.firestore collection. So like since this is a collection, so the syntax for following is very much easy as well. Chat messages. Let me just double check my spelling mistake as well. Like I had messed this up for a lot of times. ChatMessages. Yeah, the spelling matches. So chat messages dot order by. So there is something known as we need to fetch that data in an ascending order. So the oldest message should be there first, and the latest message should be at the down. So for that, we will be creating a query such that those messages are ordered in an ascending fashion. And for that, I'm using the order by method. And inside that, I will be using an attribute known as timestamp, and I will be using the ascending command. So what this order by timestamp does is that inside our JavaScript object, like whatever data we are going to push into the database. So this data would be sorted according to the timestamp in an ascending order. So this ref is only a reference to that document. We have still not retrieved the data. So let me just create a variable wherein we will be storing the data. So that would be let static data is equal to array. So here I basically defined an array, and then ref.get. So what this ref.get it does is that it hits the Firestore server and retrieves all the documents that are matching this exact specification, like from the collection of chat messages, and we have to order by all those messages inside the timestamp in ascending order. So ref.get. After we have received the documents, we need to do some kind of actions on those documents. So that would be, we will be catching those documents in query snapshot. And then query snapshot would be like a array as well. Like since we have multiple documents, so that would be fetching of multiple sources. So we need to do some kind of operation on each and every one element of that array. So I will be using query snapshot.forEach, and each item of this query snapshot that can be iterated with a variable known as doc. So this variable name can be anything, but just for the sake of simplicity, I have kept it as doc. And then for each doc, I will be pushing inside the static data array. So in pushing, this would be doc.data. So inside, what I'm doing basically here is that static data.push doc.data. So everything that is fetched from the collection, I will be pushing inside the inside this static data array. So after that, what we can do is we can console.log static data, just so that we can do something for debugging as well. And then we will be printing of that data. So I guess I have not defined the function known as printing data yet, but I will do it now. Yeah, so the thing is that in day one, as you must have noticed that Ankit was doing a step-by-step incrementation in implementation and was testing each and every function that he was doing. But in terms of in terms of backend development, all of the things has to be working at the single time. Then only that function that thing can be working. So that's why I have not rephrased the page yet and started coding. So please bear with me. I will explain you the code once again once I give you the demo as well. So yeah, that would be done. So now the next step would be printing or defining the print function as well. So let's just start with defining the print data. So as you can see, I've passed an array of object or an array inside this. So I need to catch that as well, right? So let me just catch that using a parameter known as data. And then we will be doing again data for each item. Yeah, so we will be doing, yeah, so I guess I have not defined the data structure yet, but bear with me. I will explain you everything. Item.uid is equal to firebase.auth current user .uid. So what this if statement does is that we have not defined any kind of data in this Firestore yet, but if the items UID matches with the UID that our current user is having, so there will be two users, right? One would be the one who is using the application, and one would be the person that is using the application from some other screen. So if the items UID is matching with our current user, then we need to call add my message command. So add my message functionality or function has been already defined to us here. As you can see, line number 63. So I will be calling that, and I will be passing in item.photo URL. So these are some of the attributes that I will be defining in the next step. So bear with me till that time. Item.display name, item.message, and false. Yeah. So one of the modifications that was needed to be done is that this I needed to add a toggle functionality. So I will be making add my message methods twice. One would be via this print command, and one would be from the event handler as well. So this would be the if block, and the other would be the else block. So inside else block is that in case the items UID does not match with the current user or the one that the user that has been logged in, then that message should be a sender message. So that's what I'm defining now, add sender message. And the parameters would be the same as usual, item.photo URL, item.display name, and item.message. Yeah. So after that is done, so like everything now, what this for each done is that it populates the UI for us. And once the population of UI is done, we need to scroll at the bottom automatically. Like the user need not scroll to the bottom of the chat box manually. So for that, what I'll be doing is that I'll be calling an inbuilt function that was defined to us by Ankit. That would be animate scroll at bottom. As you can see in line 101, animate scroll at bottom has already been defined for us. So let me just call that. Yeah. So up until now, if you guys have any kind of queries, please put it in the chat box. And this item.photo URL, this might be unknown to us, but within a few moments, this would be very crystal clear for you as well. So coming to the add my message command functionality. So Ankit Joshi has already defined us add my message. But in that definition, he has only 3 parameters. That would be avatar link, sender message, and message input. But we also need something known as the toggle keyword. Like toggle, that is false for now, but that also needs the toggle keyword. So let me add this parameter here. So let me just add it directly, toggle. And then if the toggle is true, then we will be uploading the data to database as well. So that's why if toggle means that if toggle is true, then this if block should be executed, and as usual this should be executed even if it is false or true. So let me go here and yeah, so I will be using another Firebase method here, or Firestore method here. So let me go here and show you the documentation. Yeah, so add and manage data, and I'm going to add data. So Firestore will give us pretty nifty examples of how your data should be defined and then updated. So as you can see, this method to upload the data to the Firestore would be setting of a document. So in this case, we are going to set a document. In this example, they have used some USA nomenclatures. So using this reference, I will be structuring my data. So that would be firebase.firestore.collection. So that collection would be chat messages, right? Yeah, chat messages .doc. So we will be creating a doc. That's why we are calling the .doc command as well. But there are 2 options here. We might add a document ID as per our own wish, or we can let Firebase decide what the document ID is. So since we are not concerned with the doc ID that much, I will leave this field empty, and then I will be finally setting the document. So setting of document is that since we need to define multiple variables, so inside set there will be 5 different variables. So let me tell you what those will be. Display name. Display name would be who's the user that is sending the message. So that would be firebase.auth.current user .display name. Yeah. So here again, I'm using a function from Firebase, that is firebase.auth.current user. So what these first 3 words does is that it automatically fetches who's the current user that has been signed in, and we are fetching the metadata or the user details from it. So the first user detail that we will be fetching is the display name. Okay, so after that we will be doing photo URL. So photo URL is like inside Ankit's application, we have this small avatar here. So in on the left side of Amit, we see a small picture, and on the right hand side of Ankit, we can see a small picture. So we can customize that picture based on what his Google profile picture is, right? So let me do that now. Firebase.auth. That gives a little bit more personal feel to our application, and we can actually see the person who's talking, right? His profile picture. So that would be current user dot photo URL. So the next attribute that we will be defining is the timestamp. So we need to know when that message was sent, right? So that would be timestamp. Yeah, I messed up the spelling once again. Yeah, timestamp. And for timestamp, I will be using the Unix Unicode for defining the time. So what this date.now does is that whenever this method is called, it returns the current object. So let me show you on console here. Yeah, so this is the JavaScript console. We can run JavaScript commands from here as well. So let me just write date.now. So we have it returns this kind of 8 or 10 digit number. So we can convert this 8-digit number using some different functions to get us the exact date and time as well. But for now, since that this would be a backend thing, then we can leave this number as is. So that's why timestamp is date.now. And another field that would be is the most important field, that would be message. So the message would be the message input. Like message input is the field that is fetched from our form field. So that would be message input. Yeah, he has always suggested me. And the last one would be UID. So the UID is also a current user's attribute. So let me define that as well. Firebase.auth.current-user.UID. Yeah, so these are the 5 attributes that we have defined. So each and every message will be having these 5 properties. So first one will be the display name. So display name is the one who is sending that message. Photo URL, as I discussed with you, photo URL is the thing that we will be showing here on the avatar screen. Timestamp is that at what time this message was sent. We need to store that as well, right? The fourth one is the message, like the most important thing, what the message actually is. And UID is the unique ID that defines the user. So let me just go ahead and scroll on this screen, the print data function that we called here. As you can see, that data for each item, if item.uid, that is the item that is fetched from the Firestore, if that UID is matching with our current user's UID, then it should be our message. If it is not matching, then it should be a sender message. So this is the if else block that's basically doing it. All right. And yeah, so we will, after this, we will just get a console log as well, just to make sure that our document is being successfully written. So we will be console.login, document successfully written. It's a backend thing actually. Make sure that this thing is not in your production app as well, or else it might give some weird wacky in our console as well. Yeah, so I think we are done with this. And then this is the message bubble constant that has been defined by Ankit for us. All right. Yeah. So now is the time to test our application. Like we can test certain things of this application as well. So before jumping into the testing, we have kind of forgot to do one thing, and that thing would be we need to set up Firebase init. Like once we were doing our setting up of application, the Firebase gave us 3 commands to execute. That would be Firebase init, Firebase login, and Firebase deploy. So we need to do those first 2 things first, right? So before that, let me just copy this everything. Let me just cross check once. Real-time chat -day 1. Yeah. Control X. Let's create a new folder known as public and paste this here. So the main reason that I pasted this in public is that the main reason, see, this would be our static content, like this would be what would be served for our users. So we need to have this in a public folder. And then after this, I will be opening the PowerShell window here, and I will be running those 2 commands. So those 2 commands would be Firebase login and Firebase init. So since I've already been logged in, I am pretty sure that he will be giving me already logged in as amitpatil.rock7@bbcoenl. So since this step is done, let me just go ahead with the next step. That would be Firebase init. So what Firebase init does is that it initializes our app, and it does some extra wiring kind of thing that we need not take care of. So he's asking us to proceed. Yes, I'm ready to proceed. The next thing he's asking is what all things that are needed in your Firebase project. So I will be needing 3 things. First would be Firestore, that is our database. The second one would be hosting, and the third one would be emulators. So emulators is a kind of thing wherein we can test our application without intrusion from some other kind of environment. So this would be an isolated environment for testing of our application. So yeah, we have selected them all. Yeah, as you can see, everything is done via the keyboard only. We do not need to use the mouse. So once I hit the enter button, he's asking, should we use a new project or use an existing project? So as we have already created a project, I will just select use an existing project. And there are 2 projects here. As you can see, the first one is my other one that I was used for testing. And the one that we created now was chat application day 2. So I will go to this chat application day 2 and hit the enter button. So now he's asking us to set up Firestore. So these are the kind of things, if you need some fine grained tuning, then we might as well edit those files. But there is no need to edit those files. So I'll just keep on hitting enter. So there is something known as Firestore rules. He's asking what the file name for that should be. So I just hit the enter button. What do you want to use as your public directory? So public directory would be the entry point for your application. So as I've already created the public folder, then I will just hit the enter button. And then he's asking us that there is a file already existing known as index.html. Should you rewrite all the URLs to index.html? Yes. Since it's a single page application, we will hit the yes button. And then set up automatic builds and deploys with GitHub. No, that's not needed. So let's just skip that. And then he's asking file public index.html already exists. Shall I overwrite? No, since I've already manually set up all those things, Firebase should not overwrite it. So I will just tell him to do that. No. And now comes the emulator part. Like for the testing part, what all emulators do you need? So I will be needing authentication emulator, I will be needing hosting emulator, and I will be needing Firestore emulator. So only the things that are needed are installed. Other rest things that we do not need, that will not be installed. So once we hit the so this would be setting up of the port number. But as we know that it's not needed for our project, so I will just hit the default values, keep it as is. So would you like to enable the emulator UI? Yes, in case we need to use the emulator, but it's not needed as of now. Would you like to download the emulators now? Yes, I want to set up the emulators now as well. Yeah, so as you can see in this command, Firebase initialization has been complete. And you will see that some new files are created here. So for the testing of this app, like in Node.js, we have npm run or npm run dev. So in terms of Firestore, we have Firebase emulators start. Yeah, please do note that we also need to have JDK 17 installed in our application. So make sure that JDK is installed. So since JDK was already installed, you can see that dev app server is running and he's giving us all the detailed info for the things. So as you can see that hosting is hosted on the port 5000. So what I'll do is just click on create a new incognito window and then hit on localhost 5000. Yeah, so this would be the our application running in live phase. So let me just close this off and show you what this looks like. Yeah. So since I closed off the authentication, it's saying that authentication was closed off by the user. So as you can see, this is our live server running or our live emulator running, and we are testing the app on localhost 5000. So you might get around with this as well. You did not install Firebase emulators and set up all those things. But since we are using authentication as well, Firebase enforces us to use an emulator so that every kind of testing that we are doing will be on in an isolated environment. So that comes to the we have reached another milestone here. I'll take a quick 1 minute break. If you have any kind of queries, you can ask in the chat box. And yeah, we'll continue after 1 minute. All right then. Yeah, so maybe I've not showed
Amit,
you.
just there was a question like why not we are using AWS?
Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll just I'll solve the query quickly before going on with the demonstration. So as Nikhila presented to us, the main motive behind using Firebase here was since we are students and we do not have any kind of credit card, AWS requires us to have a credit card for using the full functionality. Even though they have a free tier, they always ask us a credit card. So that would be the most basic reason why I used Firebase instead of AWS. And the other thing is that in my experience, in my past experiences, AWS is more focused or more targeted toward enterprise applications or huge companies wherein they have a lot of specific needs. Whereas as a starter, when we are trying to implement some kind of software or on a small scale basis, then Firebase works best for us. It abstracts away all the complexities that we need, and we only focus on the things that we are required. Like for example, if I try to design this same application on AWS, instead of 4 hours, I'm pretty sure it will take 7 to 8 hours. So the speed and quickness of Firebase is the most important reason behind choosing Firebase. So thank you for the doubt. And Ankit, I think I should proceed ahead.
Yeah. You should proceed.
Okay. So maybe during today's demonstration, I have not given you the demo of our production app, like the final end result that we will be working with. So this is the application that we have designed, and as you can see, let me just put in, hi there, I am live from day 2. And then Ankit Joshi, if you can type something on the app, then it would be great as well. Ankit? Any other members as well? Let me just put this chat link in the chat box as well, so that you guys can check out the chat as well, and feel free to enjoying the session. Okay, as you can see, this is updated live, and this is the end result that we are trying to achieve. So yeah, so this is a quick demo that we are going to give you, and we are approximately 65-70% up till our goal. So let me just close this website and proceed ahead with the application. Yeah, so we have successfully transferred. Ankit, can you please mute your mic? There is some kind of disturbance. Yeah, thank you very much. So here, as we can see, that we have successfully set up our Firebase project as well, and we have transferred all our public assets to public folders to the public folder. And this is the index.html file that we were working on, and this is the JavaScript file that we are working on. So let me just open Visual Studio Code here. No, let me just open it one folder behind, so that we can get a much more clear picture of the file structure. Yeah, so this is the file structure that we have. Inside public folder, we have assets, CS, GSS, resources, and everything. And this would be index.js file that we were working on. And this is the index.html file that we were working on. All right then. I guess the server is running. Yeah, let me just refresh the server once. So refreshing the server means that closing that JDK window. Yeah, so we can rerun the command, that is Firebase emulator start. The other thing that I would like to tell you guys is that I am specifically inside the incognito window. I'm not using our normal browser for testing. So the thing is that along with a blessing comes a curse as well. So browser has a specific feature known as caching. So what it does is that it fetches the latest data. It fetches the data that has been readily used. And since our website is kind of a static website, it does not refreshes the page even though we make certain changes to the code. So that is the main reason why I'm using incognito. So the main features of incognito includes that it does not cache any kind of browser data. So every time we hit the refresh button, this website is fetched live from the server. So that would be the reason why I was using this. So up until now, let me give you a clear idea. Yeah, so this would be an auto pop-up wherein he's asking us to log in. So let me just log in using my own personal account. All right. And since we do not have any kind of data inside the Firestore, that's why it has returned a null object, and there is nothing here. So as I said, we need to pre-populate our Firestore. So let me do that first. Hello there. This is Amit coding from day 2. So this has been done here. I guess Ankit Joshi. How is it showing Ankit Joshi? Just a sec. And let me show. All right, I have opened another window, and I will opening this same tab here as well. And let me just sign in using my dad's account so that we can see two clear different names. Hi there, good morning. Okay, so even these messages are seen here. It is we cannot see them lively updated on the two different windows. But let me just go ahead and check my Firestore if there are any kind of. Okay, so I think the chat messages are not updating. So let me just go ahead and check out what's up with that. Yeah, so the print data is mentioned. So this is the thing, like while developing, everything that is not supposed to work at the get-go. There are some kind of errors, there are some kind of bugs, and we need to debug that as well. And that might take any kind of time. That might take 1 hour, 10 hours, or 5 minutes as well. So let's just attempt to do that. All right, yeah, so this add message toggle was not defined. So I defined it here. I called it, I defined the toggle functionality, but I have not defined it on the button as well. Let me show you. So once I hit the send button, it is still calling the older method only. So let me just edit that, add my message. So message input form dot submit. So this is line number 50 to 65. This was the method that was a helper function that was defined by Ankit for us. So as you can see, add my message, avatar link, sender name, message input has been defined, but we are not giving the toggle parameter as well. So I have given the toggle command as true, so that this other command will run as well. So this true is done. I need to change the sender name and avatar link as well. So the sender name would be again firebase.auth.current users display name. So firebase.auth.current user.display name, and avatar link would be like the avatars, right? The profile picture that I was talking about. That would be firebase.auth.current user.photo URL. So these are some of the built-in methods that we can use. You can definitely refer to Firebase docs as well if you need to know more information about these functions and these attributes. So I guess that's that. And yeah, the Firebase, the emulator server has also been refreshed. So let me refresh my page here. Do note I am inside the incognito window so that everything is fetched live and not from other kind of things. So yeah. So as usual, on the left hand side is my own personal account, and on the right hand side is my other account. So let me call here. Hi there. This is Amit from day 2 live coding. All right, so the name is updated, my profile picture is also seen, and the message is also seen. So let me just go to Chrome and type in, hi there, good morning, I am Amit. That. All right. So Sampath Patil, since he does not have any kind of profile picture, it's a basic S, and yeah, that has been defined. So let me just cross check if this has been updated to the database as well. As I have said that I had a console log here after the set command that says that the document has been successfully written. And we can see here as well that the document has been successfully written. That means I know the document has been written. But just to cross check, just to check it once again, I will refresh my Firebase console and check if the document is actually visible inside Firestore as well. So as you can see, the two documents that I had that has been updated. So let me give you the attributes as well. So that would be the display name, that is Amit Patil, message, that is hi Amit, hi there, this is Amit from Day 2 Live Coding. The photo URL is the one my profile pictures URL. Timestamp is the time when this message was printed, and the UID is the unique ID. Unique ID is of Amit Patil's, and here in Sampath Patil you can see this is a different unique ID that is associated with this account. All right, then we can populate the data more further as well. So let me do that. GDSC live coding is fun, and from my father's account, let me put, oh yes, it definitely is. This can be any kind of dummy data, so I'll just put in. So in total, we have 4 messages here. Let me just cross check if those 4 messages are updated. Oh yeah, so this would be GDSC live coding is fun. That was put by Amit Patil. And oh yes, it definitely is by Sampath Patil. So we have in total approximately 4 messages. So now what we can do is we can again refresh the page to check if the data is being fetched by from the Firestore. Oh yes, it has been fetched. So just to let you know, this is Amit's window, and as you can see, this these messages have been lively updated. But again, it's not updating automatically without refreshing the page. We need to refresh, but that's a functionality that we will be working on next, right? So let me just do it here on my father's account as well, just to check if it's working correctly. All right. As you can see that there are 2 different windows. This one's my own personal account, wherein the messages are on the right hand side, and my father's account, wherein the messages are on the right hand side. So the basic functionality is done as of now, but one of the special icing on the cake, or one of the special magical feature that we have is real-time updation, right? The main motive behind this was to create a real-time application. So let's just jump to that now. So as you can see, the dummy data has been put in. We have total 4 messages here. Now comes the magical part, or the X factor of our application, that would be defining the real-time listener. So let me just go through the Firebase docs once so that you can get to know. Read data. So inside read data, we have get data once, and we listen for real-time updates. So this was one of the highlighting features of Firestore. So we will be getting real-time updates from Firestore without updating our database. So this would be the common syntax for it: db.collection cities.docsf on snapshot, and any kind of changes that happen, that would be console log. So this was one of the kind of examples. The main example, or the main feature that we are interested in, is the added kind of thing. If change the type is equal to added, we need to console log. Let me just zoom in the screen so that you guys can see it more clear. Yeah. So view changes between snapshots. It is often useful to see the actual changes to query results between query snapshots instead of simply using the entire query snapshot. For example, you may want to maintain a cache as individual documents are added, removed, and modified. So what this line does is that this makes a real-time listener, wherein it only listens to, we will be only interested in change.type is equal to added. It only listens to the documents that have been added, and it will update the UI according to that. It will not update the complete different UI, or it will not completely refresh the page. It will only update the specific message that has been added to the Firestore. So I will take reference of this snippet and start coding. So yeah, and other commands that we have, other functionalities, other coding lines that we had, that has been defined inside a function. But since this would be something that would be constantly running in the background, I have to define it outside a function or in a global scope. So that's why I will be coding this part on the very end of the document. Outside any kind of thing, it's on a global scope. All right. So let's start with that. Const ref is equal to. Some of this syntax might be similar to you. I will let you know what the difference is. Firebase.firestore.collection. Chat messages. Yeah, be very careful about the spellings. It took me yesterday, let me tell you a fun fact. It took me yesterday 2 hours to debug just because I had chat message instead of chat messages. So we have to be very careful with our spelling mistakes and spellings so that we do not waste time on any unnecessary things. So order by, the same thing. I will be ordering it by timestamp, and I will be putting it into the ascending order. So this would be the reference of our Firestore. So that what it does is that inside collection chat messages, we will be ordering all the documents by timestamp inside the ascending order. All right. So let me add the snapshot listener on snapshot. Again, snapshot spelling, we need to cross check it's correct. Yeah, it's correct. Dot on snapshot, and we will be adding the query snapshot object. So query snapshot is the thing that we will be using for updation. Let me just define array here. So as I said, let me go up above and I'll show you. Yeah, so while we were fetching the static data, we defined a variable known as static data as an array. So that's the same thing on similar lines I'm doing here, where data is equal to array and query snapshot doc changes. So if you find this a little bit confusing, you can go ahead and refer to the documents as well. I'm pretty sure Firebase docs will be able to guide you more in such technical things. Query snapshot.doc changes. We will be calling this function .for each. So we will be catching the change object here, and we will be acting upon the change. So we are only interested if the change.type is added. Like we will be only interested in calling this function if a certain kind of document is added. So let me just do that first. Change.type is equal to added. And if the document is added, then only we will be going inside this loop, and that loop will be change.doc.data.uid. So the changed document data or the added data, if that is not equal to our current user, let me define that first. .uid, then we have to push it. So let me just write this command here. Change.doc.data All right. And since the main reason I'm doing this is that even though we are listening for one single document, we have defined our print data with an array. Like this parameter is an array. So that's why while passing the data, we need to use array as well, right? So that's what I'm doing now. Data.push change.doc.data. And then we will be calling the print data command. So that the UI is refreshed. So what this if I'm pretty sure you understood till this line, like line 146 says that if a document is added, then only I'm interested to do the certain further things. So this is that if the change or type is added, yes. If the document is added, then I will go inside. Then this if command says that once the document is added, I am only interested in the document whose UID does not match my own UID. So if I put in my own message, then I should not listen for that. I only should listen for a document whose UID is different than mine, or some I am only listening for messages that have been put forward by other people. So that's what line 147 does. And we are going to close this loop, and yeah, so we are done here. So we can once again test this app. Let me go ahead. Oh yeah, okay. Let me just refresh the emulator once, just to be safe. It's not needed actually, but just to be on a safer side, I am refreshing the emulator as well. Yeah, so our server has started running. Let me go to this page and let me open up this page. Okay, so I will be hard refreshing this page, and I will be hard refreshing this page as well. All right, now comes the tada moment. Let's see if this is actually working. Is this working? Okay, so magically this started working as well. Oh yes, it definitely does. All right, the messages are being updated live without me refreshing the page. So I guess the main functionality of our app is now completely built. Let me just type in another message. Let me just copy an emoji. Now let's just focus on the right hand side of the window. So once I hit the send button, on the right hand side of window, it should update, right? So let me put the send button. Okay, glad it worked. It has been updated. So I think that our main functionality is completely built now. We can readily ship this app to production as well. But there are small changes that we need to do. Like Ankit Joshi also implemented a sign out button, but we are yet to do any kind of backend code for this sign up button as well. So let's just go and do that first. Okay, sign out dot click. Let's just find where the sign out method is. Okay, so this is line number 44, wherein we have sign out dot click. So inside sign out dot click, we will be wiring up all the things. So the first would be, we would be checking if the user is actually signed in or signed out. So if the user is signed out, like user does not exist, or firebase.current user is null, so we will be checking that for. So that would be firebase.auth.current user. All right. So do note that we have an exclamation mark over here. So this means that not. If this object is null, then only we will be going inside this loop. So inside this loop, we will be calling the methods once again, auth user. Like we will be trying to authenticate the user, and I will be enabling the UI. All right. And then after that, sign out code would be, let me just put in sign out code. Firebase.auth.sign out. Yeah, so this is one of the commands, this is one of the methods that I will be using from Firebase docs as well. So once we call this method firebase.out.sign out, the user will be automatically signed out. So once the user is automatically signed out, we also need to disable the UI. Like for security purposes, we need to have only the signed in user to be able to access and read all the messages, right? So that's why I'm calling the disable UI method. uh, Enable UI method and disable UI method were already defined by Ankit Joshi on day one. So if you need to see how that code works, you can feel free to visit day one YouTube video as well. And then just as a small command or a small reactivity, I will just put in a small basic alert which says you have signed out. All right, let's just save this. Go to our website. Okay, the server is running properly. And let's just open all those and refresh the page once. Okay, so both of these windows have been authenticated now. Left hand side is my window, right hand side is my dad's account. So once I hit the sign out button, let me show the console as well, just in case. Yeah, once I put the sign out button, it will say you have signed out. Like there will be an alert that says you have signed out. And once I hit the OK button, our UI is completely disappeared. This means that once we sign out, the user will not be able to see the messages. So if he wants to see the messages once again, he can definitely click the sign in button, and the UI will be refreshed. Let me do that here once again. I will hit the sign out button, and the UI is not visible to us. And once we hit the sign in button, UI is visible to us. So I think our app as of now is production ready. I know our product, since this everything lines of code, including HTML, CSS, JS, everything has been written by us. There is a lot of room for improvement. There are a lot of places wherein we can optimize our code even further. But just for the sake of demonstration and simplicity, we tried keeping it simple. So the very last thing that we have to do is, as I promised, the last movement thing that I added was hosting as well. So let's just check if hosting works as well. So I will need to stop the Firestore server and then start pushing it to hosting. Yeah. So let me go to the console and show you what the deploy command looks like. Chat application day 2, hosting, get started. Yeah, so we have done this step 1. We have done step 2 as well, Firebase login and Firebase init. This is the final step that we are going to do. That would be deploying our application on this app. And here even it says after deploying, you can view your app at chat application day2.web.app. So let me just copy this command and go to PowerShell window and paste here. Okay, it's not pasting, let me just type it, Firebase deploy. All right, so what it does is that it will package everything that is there in this folder. It will ignore the files that need to be ignored, and it will also do everything packaging. Let me show you PowerShell once again. Yeah, so we can see what it's doing is that it's packaging everything in a much more compressed and optimized manner, and it's deploying it to the website. So deploy, as you can see, deploy is complete and hosting URL is given here. So let me just copy this hosting URL and paste it on my, once again, I will be using incognito just to be safe. All right, yeah, so by default, pop-up is blocked as a security feature. So let me just enable that once again. All right, so as you can see now, it's not locally hosted, it's on a website, HTTPS, and let me hit on this. And we can see the connection is secured and the site has a valid SSL certificate as well, right? So it's very easy for us to deploy an application using Firebase. That's what That's the main reason why I wanted to show you deployment as well. So I think we are done with the coding part. We have deployed this app, and let me paste this link once again to show you the live demonstration. And coming to the sharing part as well. Let me just share my screen once again. All right, so I think we are done with the demo, and if you have any kind of queries relating to Firebase, relating to front end or back end development, any kind of queries related to GDSC, please feel free to put it. You can even unmute yourself and ask the queries. We are done with the live coding part, and we are waiting for your queries.
Thank you, Amit. This was a very great session. I hope everyone was following along and they will also use this knowledge to build their own projects. Any questions, guys?
Yeah, Nikhil asked me a question, maybe 1227. This error showed us a live example of method overloading. Yeah, exactly. Method overloading works in when we pass different parameters, a different method is called. So he was trying to search a method wherein we were having three parameters, and I was basically, my motive was to call a method with four parameters. So yeah, you can call that a live example of method overloading as well.
You guys can use the link that Amit provided us, the app that we developed today, and try to use it. Let's let's chat over there also.
Yeah, it's given by default. If you want to provide any kind of external domain as well, you can do that. But in case you do not have any kind of domain, then Firebase is happy to give your domain. So it's not a .com wala domain. It's a different domain which ends with .web.app. So in case you're not comfortable with that, you need to buy the .com domain as well. And yeah, I'll make sure that I post this code on the GitHub repo as well. Since I was working on a different branch, so I will need to change my branches as well. So within the next 30-40 minutes, I will be updating this code on GitHub repo as well.
Yes, and when you will go to that repository, when Amit will update it, there are different branches. Like on day one, we had a template to get started, so there is a separate branch for that. Then the code that we completed on day one, so there is a branch for that, and the main branch will, of course, have the latest code that we did today. So go ahead, like even if your doubt is small or a little bit outside the project, it's fine. We are ready to answer it. You guys will also by default, I think, will receive a feedback form or something. So try to fill the feedback form and like share your views on that. I hope that you guys enjoyed both the sessions. And there is an upcoming session which is on 12th, which will be on the modern JavaScript. And modern JavaScript is something which is, heavily used in frameworks like React, Vue.js. So that is also a very important session, and we hope that you guys shows the similar participation that you showed today on 12th also. The timing will be same.
Yeah, as I mentioned that I was using different kinds of syntaxes for different functions. Like I was using for each, I was using variables, I was using var, let, and arrow functions as well. So these are one of the most important. Even though you can make this code run on an older system as well. But the various features of ES6JS is very useful for frameworks such as React and Angular. So yeah, I think it's very important for you to attend day 3 as well, so that you get a clear picture of what my syntax looks like.
I have put the link of third day, day 3, in the chat. Please register, everyone.
Thank you, Riddhi. We hope that you enjoyed the session today's, and we guarantee you that the third session will also be great.